Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, is there anyone here tonight that has an issue, a question, or a concern they'd like to raise with this board that is not on tonight's agenda? Okay, with that, I'll ask the clerk to take. Oh, yeah,
I just wanted to make sure everyone else had a chance first. May I come up?
sure, please. State your name and.
My name is Megan Henson. I'll give you my cards. I am a groomer. I've been in the area in Onondaga County for about 10 years now.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've been up until recently in Liverpool, renting a small space there. And
Thank you.
I recently found out the space that I have been renting was no longer going to be available. This was last summer.
Yeah.
So I began my search, ideally closer to home. I live over here. So in August, I found a property at 4901 Janesville Road. And it's right next door to my vet. Everything looked perfect. I wanted to do room and board. So I spoke with, I've been working with the Women's Business Center. Excuse me. And I was able to get connected with a broker. He went to the town to ask about boarding. Unfortunately, I think he left out the grooming part. So he says, you can't do boarding at this location. I said, okay. So we continued looking for other properties. I could not stop thinking of this building. I love it so much. It's beautiful. So I changed my business plan to just do grooming, no boarding, assuming that I was going to be good to go. We went through the negotiations over the winter time. I signed a lease in February and started work on the property. I've now invested thousands of dollars into this property, lots of time and energy, which is fine. I'm happy to do it. I got to a point where it was beyond my scope, some of the work that needed to be done. So I hired a plumber. He went to get a permit for the property. And he came back and said there was some complications because of the way it was designated. It is an old funeral home. So he says, you need to change the designation. Okay, no problem. So I called planning and zoning and I was informed that I'm not allowed to be there. This was March 3rd. So I, at this point, had no clue what that meant. So I said, okay, what paperwork do I need to fill out? It's been a long process, so I won't bother you with all of the crazy details. But I was told I would need to use variance, but then told I should just instead speak to a lawyer. I've spoken with 3. The advice I'm being given is to bail, because the town will do it's not going to work with you. This is what I'm being told. I have now read the town code, front to back, back to front. I don't think that's the case. I see what's important to you guys. And I really do think I'm going to be helpful to my community. I'm a really good fit over there. So I feel like there's a solution somewhere. I have been working very closely with planning and zoning, and every solution I've come up with has somehow not worked out. So I'm at the point now where I need help. I have done everything I can in my power to solve the problem for myself, because it's kind of how I work. But at this point, I think I need the problem solvers in my community, which I've found throughout this whole process as you guys, to help me out here.
Can I,
Yes.
this is an issue that this board is aware of.
Okay,
In fact, Counselor Alex brought it to our attention about a week ago.
yes.
And I'm somewhat dismayed that we haven't communicated back to you that this is solvable and that we're working on it. We've had an ongoing conversation for considerable period of time about expansion of the Hamlet zoning district and what I would define as the Janesville Hamlet zoning district 2. And so there is a draft of a zone change that needs to go through this board. And the way the process would work is we would come to some finalized agreed upon language for that zone change and for the parcels that would be included in that zone change. We'll make a we'll send that draft language to the planning. The planning board is going to look at it and give us recommendations back. We'll finalize that and schedule a public hearing. In the meantime, it's going to go to the county for their approval. Once we get the county approval and hold that public hearing, we will likely implement the zone change that you need to operate that business in that location. And it, in my opinion, will solve several other zoning issues that occur throughout that area. It's unfortunate, but you're zoned in office professional right now. And that whole market's collapsed, right? Since COVID, most of there's a glut of office space in town of DeWitt and in central New York and throughout the country right now. And so, in this particular instance, it makes sense to continue what we have is a very good hamlet zoning district. And it doesn't reach as far down Jamesville Road as your business, but it makes sense based on some of the businesses that you have next to you and what you're trying to do.
Yes.
Is there anybody that wants to add to that? And again, my apology at this point is that no one in our Office of Planning and Zoning and or from this board got back to you to tell you that's in play.
So I would like to clarify, planning and zoning, I did not get any of that information. However, I did speak with Mr. Alex and he informed me that that was the case.
Yeah.
I don't want to cut you off, but I
No,
do.
go
have a
ahead.
question.
You're,
Okay.
you're good.
I think my current concern, because that's great, that's fantastic news for me. It's been a very long couple of months. However, I think it's important that I'm honest with you guys because I opened before I knew I had a problem and I'm there now. So I think I'm concerned and I'm hesitant to say that because I don't want to get shut down because that would, I mean, I'm a brand new business. That would probably be the end of it for me. I will always find a solution, but I think in the meantime, what do I do? You know, so I understand these things take time and I.
Take about 4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks. Okay, so that sounds like months to me. That sounds like a long process.
And that's us accelerating that process.
In the meantime, what should I do? Because I can't not, you see what I'm saying? And I maybe shouldn't say that out loud, but it's,
We'll talk about it offline. Let's talk about.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we can't in an open public meeting tell you it's okay to operate a business.
Yeah.
Anyway, just,
Let's talk with our attorney.
okay.
yeah, but we, like I said, we
get your number.
But, okay, yeah,
I would just only add that these things do take time. It's not always easy, even if it seems easy, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't marry yourself to any time frame. Just
Sure.
see how the process plays out. That's the best way to go about it. I would
Okay.
say.
The only thing I'll add was that was a fantastic presentation.
thank you. I thought that-
Yes, you described it very eloquently. Bernard did as well in his email, but you came here, you presented your problem, you let us know all the mitigating factors to it and what you were hoping to accomplish. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I love what I do and I'm looking forward to serving our community. It's really important to me. So
And I-
Megan, what's your address for your business, please?
it's 4901
Yep.
Jamesville Road. Right next to Corey Side Animal Hospital.
And how about your email address?
It's Henson, I'll spell it for you. It's HENSON MEGAN.
MEGAN.
Yes, at Hotmail. Sorry,
Yeah, what?
at Hotmail.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
And maybe just as
Yeah.
Sarah said, that's why I encouraged you to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
push past your nervousness because you have the passion to articulate it better than I could,
Sure.
you know, in the email, then you get in everyone's directive on the next steps. Thank you for coming.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a presentation from the Syracuse Regional Airport Authority. This is always a pleasure to host, and I thank Jason. Mike, did you want to introduce the topic
I
or?
think almost everybody that knows Jason, so
just get started, so we don't take up.
Okay.
Yep. All right, well, good evening. Good evening, everyone. As I do every year, want to kind of give you an update of how we ended 2024, also kind of what we're looking for going into 2025. Thank you. Last year for us was a lot of highs, a couple lows with Southwest exiting the market, but also with the other carriers stepping right in. Maybe.
Sorry.
No worries. That really helped us make sure that we stayed incredibly stable and we really didn't get affected by some of those large drops in traffic. So
I'm sorry, guys, I'm just trying to get it to
The side screens.
screen.
okay.
I forgot.
While I was doing that, something I want, you'll see update quick on our master plan, but May 21st is our last public meeting on the master plan. Okay, the final concepts have already been sent to the FAA. So it's from 4 to 6 at the airport, May 21st. So we'll have all the boards up on everything we're going to be doing, and you'll see a summary of it in this presentation. But remember, that's the graphical representation of our 20-year vision for what the airport's going to become. So
What time is that?
4 to 6 p.m. So the airport team will be there. We'll have our consultants there, everybody who can answer all the questions from forecasting all the way down. So
And where in the airport will it be held?
in the John Walsh conference room back by the museum, I will make sure that as we get closer, I know our social team will be pumping a lot of stuff out. So, all right. Oh, what did I just do there?
Hit share screen there. Yep. Double click maybe.
All right, try again. There we go. All right. So just kind of a little bit about how we ended the airport or the year. So we are sitting right now at 8 airlines with 29 nonstop destinations. And this year we're operating on a budget of about $55 million. So up over the last 5 years, we've been pretty consistent in being able to grow the operating revenues at the airport. We sit on roughly 2,300 acres of land. That is one of our new initiatives this year, is developing some of that land. And also we have over 25,000 people employed at the airport. So it's a pretty significant employee base. And one of the things that we did differently this year is we actually did an economic impact statement specific to the airport. This is just for what the airport does within our catchment area in our region. And for that, it's about $1.8 billion in economic impact that the airport has for the whole region that we serve. So that's that catchment area. You'll see a little later in the slides. It's what we've been using and where we draw all our passengers from. But we break it down all the way through labor, employment, and then on the other side by actual output. So lodging, people stay in the hotels, what they're spending in restaurants. So this is something we're going to be updating probably about every 2-3 years. But this is something new that we have. But what we've done is it's gone a little bit farther with it, is broken it down by airline, air route. So the most profitable for this community is Atlanta from Syracuse Airport. Okay, so that represents about $105 million a year in economic impact just on the Atlanta flight. We have this for all the routes, but these are some of the more important. But in the darker, what you see there, those are routes that we are currently chasing. So if we were to land the Seattle, right, that's roughly $40 million additional. So we've actually put a value now to each of the routes that we're going after. And what does that mean to the region? So 2024, how did we do? So even with Southwest leaving the market, which at the time when they exited, they were our 4th busiest carrier, we still broke another record. We broke 3 million passengers for the first time ever. And that represents about a 5% increase over 2023. So even with losing 12% of our traffic that was Southwest, all the other carriers and what they've already added in were still positive for this year.
Did Southwest go anywhere else regionally, or did they just drop the upstate area?
They just dropped Syracuse. They've been established in Rochester and
Yeah.
Albany for a very long
But
time.
they didn't switch those operations to another airport?
No, those are all still at those 2 airports. So breaking it down and why we were able to be so resilient with them leaving is this diversification of carriers. We have so many different airlines that JetBlue is actually the one that added a tremendous amount of traffic that made up for what Southwest left, going double daily into Orlando. Breeze was probably our largest growth, and then you saw right behind that was Frontier. It's kind of gone down a little bit. You'll see that a little bit later. But one of the things that we're tracking now is premium seats in the market. We are the top market in upstate New York for premium seats. That's your business traveler. That's what airlines are looking for when they're adding to the market, both in terms of leisure. But if you have a community that's purchasing that premium seat product, they actually also have the ability to go after leisure travel. So it helps balance it out pretty well. So that's a really important metric, and we're doing very well. Our catchment area, as we define, we're actually continuing to grab more and more from outside of kind of your core Onondaga County. Right now, with Rome Utica, we're capturing about 80% of all of their travelers. So anyone who travels from those areas, we are about 80% of them use the Syracuse Airport. Binghamton's at 52%, and that continues to rise. They did lose a carrier, Avello, and so all of that traffic is also coming. This study will be updated in about 2 months, and so we should see these numbers all the way through 2024. So as far as our route map, one of the things that we've done differently this year is the white cities and lines. Those are the nonstop routes that we have. And then the other cities that you see in orange, those are the top O&D origin destination markets for Syracuse. So where are the most people traveling to that we do not have a nonstop? Some really interesting trends we're starting to see in the data because of the semiconductor industry moving in some of the cities that weren't really relevant before, and now we're starting to come up. And I'll show you a little bit more of the semiconductor stuff here in a little while. And then this is always a fun slide for us. The amount of cities we can hit one stop out of Syracuse with less than a 4-hour connection at one of our hubs. So again, we continue to have really good global connectivity in and out of this market. If we bump it up to about 5 hours, you get Australia, but we want to keep it at about 4. So, you know, if you want to sit in an airport that long, you can. So what are we looking at right now for 2025? We're really looking at four initiatives: infrastructure development, our air service portfolio, customer service, and expanding our regional partnerships. So we start our year off really strong. So this is looking ahead for the first 6 months of 2025 of what is already being scheduled over 2024. So what we've already seen, United has now announced they're going double daily into Denver. American is going 4 times a day to Washington National. Yeah.
Can I, Delta is only 14% of your capacity or your?
No, that's how much they've added over
Okay.
last year.
I was gonna say, because they're your most profitable. You just said Atlanta was your.
The route is, yeah. In terms of, that is the most important route. If you're looking in terms of capacity, American is number 1, followed pretty closely by Delta. But this is what this represents is growth in seats.
Okay,
2024 compared to the first half of 2025.
got it. Thank you.
No problem. So you can see that's
Misinterpreting.
no worries. The JetBlue, that is because they've gone double daily. They've made up a lot of what Southwest was flying. But American has announced 4 flights a day into DCA, so Washington National, into Philly, and into Chicago. And I can talk about JetBlue going double daily into Orlando with their largest aircraft, which is the brand new A321. You see Frontier is down. Frontier is changing their business model. And so cities like Syracuse don't fall in that business model anymore. The aircraft they operate only have 223 seats. It's hard to fill that size of an aircraft out of this market. So the only things they're serving this year is going to be Denver, Atlanta, and Orlando. They may add some others in the fall, but right now this is what's scheduled. The drop in United is because of some construction that's happening in Newark. They're taking their main runway out of service, so they're pulling down some of their capacities. So I talked about the semiconductor industry. We took a look at what are the key cities for the semiconductor industry domestically, and have been tracking their travel. And what was really interesting is our fastest growing market right now is Phoenix for the Syracuse Airport. It actually surpassed the Bay Area, so San Francisco, for the first time. San Francisco always was number 2. Phoenix is now number 2 for us. Northwest is getting really strong with both Seattle and Portland going double digits. So we expect to see this continue. Phoenix is a huge hub for all the suppliers for the semiconductor market. So we're working to make sure that we get the right amount of capacity between Phoenix and Syracuse, along with these other cities. When you look at how the capacity is shifting, you can see everything that mountain region, what you see in orange, that's where we're seeing some of the largest growth. The Minneapolis, St. Paul, they added that. When we added that city back, that's where you're seeing the seat capacity growth. That connects, that Minneapolis flight is one that does some of the strongest Asia connections for Syracuse. So overall, it continues to be a really strong story for us. So talk about the master plan. So here it is. This is the graphical representation of the Syracuse Airport through 2040. Couple things to highlight on the right side, east side of the airport, that is a new cargo facility that is needed. We're at about 90% capacity right now. And we are working with a company that is looking to fly 747 freighters in here in the fourth quarter of 2027. So we can handle one right now, but we've got a little bit of work to do. The new layout of the terminal, probably within the next 5 to 10 years, we will start on a terminal modernization program where the terminal will shift to a backwards L, having more of a linear look with 29 gates, also connecting into 2 new parking garages. And then up at the north, you see what is our second parallel runway, which right now is to a design standard for advanced air mobility and UAS operations. We took the design standards working with the 174th for the MQ-9 Reaper, and that's how we came up with those standards. We're the only airport in the country that the FAA has authorized advanced air mobility and UAS infrastructure to be included in the master plan. Any questions on this before I move on? There's usually a lot of questions on this.
Yeah, so that top additional runway would be designed specifically for UAV?
Yes, that's how we planned it out. Ultimately, it will, if the way the FAA does runways is you have to hit a certain operational capacity before they will fund a runway. We don't hit that under traditional means for a commercial or general aviation runway to the north. So when that happens, and there's no timeline, I mean, I'm thinking, 10, 15 years before something like that were to come alive. That would really just be for that advanced air mobility, maybe some general aviation training flights, but not as terms of a commercial service. Right now, we've got a 5,500 foot runway, 75 and 9,500 for that runway.
Wasn't there an old runway in that general area?
There's always been, that's always been a runway shown on the ALP way back. It used to be when it was military, there used to be something up there as well. So what we've done is kind of changed it around to protect it so that we have it. Part of the reason we designed it for advanced air mobility and UAS in that location is that feeds into the 450 square mile operations area beyond visual line of sight that we have for working with New Air. So it allows us to separate your traditional traffic from advanced air mobility UAS.
The cargo.
Yep.
That is gonna enter and exit on Northern Boulevard?
That's one of the concepts. That's what we showed here. That's the desired state because there's no really other way to get you'd have to go all the way up and around that runway because of your protected surfaces. So this would be about a mile shot straight across. We actually found the old Sand Lake Road or Sand Road. So there's actually some already road infrastructure in some of those areas out there that we'll be able to work with.
Does it cross Kinney Street there or? Okay, I don't know how far north Kinney Street goes. I don't.
Kinney Street, I think is down much further
Much
south.
farther.
Yeah, much further south. Yeah, I think it's north of that.
To the south, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
No problem. So to talk about Micron, some of the growth, and you saw the slide last year. So we are going to hit our 2030 master plan levels this year. So we're on track to be about 1.2 million passengers this year with some of the growth that we're expecting. So it's really accelerated our need for infrastructure development and to deliver that master plan. So looking at what our 2030 infrastructure needs are, it works out to be about $1.1 billion in the next 5 years. Now, we don't have to do all of this. The big number down there at the bottom of the terminal, we just did 2 terminal expansions that have opened up. So we think we can get by for a while without having to do that new terminal that you saw in the master plan. But the biggest challenge for us right now is the landside parking and roadways of the airport. Airfield, we've got some projects going on this year, along with some support. A lot of that's all FAA and federally funded. Really, for us, it becomes the land side of the airport is the challenge. And why it's important that we're having this discussion with everybody, both at the federal level, state, local. We're in a growth mode at the airport right now, and if the airport were to have to fund all of this ourselves, the parking garage, all that kind of stuff, it starts to put a lot of pressure on the airlines where they aren't profitable anymore here, and they start to pull back their traffic. So we've got till 2030 to solve the parking deck issue. And we're working with this, like I said, state feds. I'm in Washington a lot these days, talking about a lot of this. So it's a solvable problem, but as you can see, if we have to put all of that into the rate base, it really does start to put a lot of pressure on our airlines. So this is the schematic of the new parking deck. It's at 15% design right now. New roadways, you see at the front, you have a dual curb up front. So you have 4 arrivals and departures curb. The consolidated rental car facility to the north, that starts construction this year. It was June. I think we're pushing it back to a little bit because the snow went a little longer than we were expecting it to go this year. We have to build another surface lot as a swing space for that. That's where all the rental cars will move to. And then with the parking deck, we'll build 2 separate decks so that we can take the existing deck down half at one point, build a first new deck, take the second half of the old deck down, build a second deck. So yeah, for the next 5 years, we're going to be under a lot of construction at the airport.
Will those decks be multiple floors
Yeah,
higher than the existing or?
no, we can't go much higher because you have a line of sight issue for the air traffic controllers to be able to see the airfield. So we're only going up 4 stories. You can see it right here. This is kind of a rendering of it.
Yeah, okay.
It'll be a 4-story deck. It'll be a little bit wider than the existing deck, so we'll not a loss in capacity, but just a little different challenge.
The terminal that is not on now, but the backwards L that you showed,
Yep.
that go actually around where you now have the Terminal A pickup.
No, so the terminal front, the glass will stay the same. That will bump out this way. If you can see my cursor here.
Yeah.
So this becomes gate space all here, starting all the way up this area and straight down. So that it's a linear terminal all the way down.
Okay, I thought I saw, you said a backward L.
Yeah, so the terminal, fast here. The terminal will actually start up here above what are the Delta United gates right now, come down and then go backwards through this parking lot.
Okay, that was my question.
This is where the other gates will go.
Yeah, so that Terminal A pickup is temporary. Right now.
Yeah, for right now, and then once we go to the dual curb, you'll have a true arrivals and departures curb.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. All right, so this is the rendering of what the new rental car facility is going to look like. That's going to start, like I said, probably in about 2 or 3 months. We'll start that. In addition, we're having to build another surface lot out right by Mohawk Global. We need to do that. It's an additional 700 spaces. We need that for swing spaces. We take out the other parking lot. And just this past May or March, we almost ran out of parking again at the airport. So, and then one of the more exciting pieces is we now have a full shuttle service 24/7 operating at the airport, stopping at all the lots that are out. Inside the terminal, we've opened up Qdoba, Einstein's Bagels. Miss Prissy's is slated to open later this year. This is the look of the Einstein's Bagels. It's up and operational right now. It's doing really, really well. And this is the new gate space in Delta. So we're able to open that corner up. Looks great. Then I talked a little bit about expanding our regions as we capture more and more from outside of Onondaga County and really, really close into the airport. We're starting to work with businesses and communities that are a little bit further out to understand what their connectivity needs are, what cities are important to make sure that they have all the resources they need. Because a lot of these small airports, Binghamton, Ithaca, Elmira, are all losing a lot of service. So we want to make sure that that capacity stays here and that anyone who falls within our catchment area really gets with the access that they need. And that's it. That's all I got for you. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
You mentioned arrival and departure.
Yes.
It'll be designated, not an elevation of departure, arrival, all on the same,
I'll be on the same.
but actual designated. Right.
Yes, it'll say you will have it marked, so it's arrivals and departures. So your departures will always pull up on the front curb, because everybody's got their luggage, it's easier to get them out, and the arrivals curb will be on the outside. Right?
And when is the anticipated time for that? Tomorrow.
That would be nice. It would be really nice. Believe me, the curve is a headache. The parking deck, we have to have a parking solution completed by 2030. So, and it's a process of having to take down a deck, build a deck. So by 2030 is when we have to really have all of this solved. Otherwise, the deck will probably end up having to close it around that time. And if we don't have, replacement parking, we'll be running shuttles to the old runway. Which none of us want to do. So that's why we're trying to solve this problem now.
What's your, in the master plan? After the two decks are built and the consolidated rental center. Are you expecting an increase in total parking or maintaining the same?
Increase. It'll be an increase in total parking.
About how much?
2,000 spaces, I think is what we end up, and that gets us to our 2040 levels of what we forecast.
With the additional parking will be uncovered parking.
The outer lots will be, they will all be uncovered. So we are looking at potentially doing some kind of a solar cover. Some airports have done that. But that becomes a little bit challenging, with just, you start having to give up parking capacity to build all those structures. And, you know, again, it comes down to a cost benefit of, can we really do that right now? Any other questions?
Are you gonna be having, vehicles for hire, ride sharing in the departure?
On the curb, yeah.
Yeah,
On the outer curb, that's where it's designated, that's where it will be designated for ride share, pickup. Drop off is always the front curb, pickup will be on the outer curb, commercial vehicles.
is that utilized a lot at the airport?
Yes, Uber, Lyft,
Yeah.
yes, tremendously, especially a lot of the students coming in and out.
And thank you.
No problem,
Excellent.
no problem, anytime.
Appreciate
Thank you,
your
Jason.
coming, Mike. And I appreciate your
Annual report.
reports.
Has a lot of detail on. Some great pictures.
Lovely.
All right, brother.
Thank you. That's great.
Hi, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
It's like,
Hi.
thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have the auditors group, the. Oh, okay. Are they, I thought they were here. Yeah.
Here?
Yeah, that was him back.
That's what I figured, yeah,
Don't listen to me tonight,
that's okay.
like him.
Have you? Yes, the audit, 2024 audit presentation. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
And I thought, Carrie said 6:30, so I figured you were the guy.
I believe materials were distributed, to everyone. I have a couple extra hard copies if anyone needs one.
Are you gonna have it on the screen?
We are not.
No. That's how, yeah.
It is in the packet.
Yeah, I thought.
I know.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jacob Skevel with Bonadeo Group. I am the principal responsible for overseeing the audit field work. Tonight, we're going to be talking about December 31st, 2024 year end and results. So Distributed were copies of all the reports that we issued and will be issuing. But also is the presentation summarizing those in a little more easily digestible format. So I'll run through that, but absolutely let me know if you have any other questions on any of the other documents. So tonight we'll cover the scope of what we've done, the reports we've issued, along with some summaries on those reports, and then some financial highlights for the town for the 2024 year end. Starting with the scope of services. So we conducted an audit of the town's financial statements, including in accordance with government auditing standards. So we've included our yellow book report on internal controls. The financial statements we will be dating as of today. So they're presented in draft form, is expected to be issued tomorrow. We did conduct a separate audit of the town's local development corporation. Those amounts are included in the town's financial statements as a blended component unit. And those financial statements were issued as of March 18th. So that was timely in meeting the authority's budget office requirements for public authorities. We did also complete and agreed upon procedures over the justice courts and issued that March 28th. Just quick summary on that. I like to point out agreed upon procedures. They're a little different from an audit report. We agreed to do set procedures and report the exact findings of those. So we don't have a concept for things like materiality, and any sort of deviation from the procedures gets reported in the report. That being said, you'll see a couple small items in there related to a reconciliation difference and the dating of bank reconciliations. That being said, you can see the details there. Nothing of particular significance out of the ordinary from what we would expect.
Judges in the back are breathing a sigh of relief.
And I did meet with judges previously and reviewed that. So everything's smooth there, and I appreciate their assistance in getting through that. All right, moving on to the executive summary of the financial statement audit of the town. For our opinion, we will be issuing an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. That's the highest level of assurance that we can provide as auditors. So that's what you're hoping to see each year on the financial statements. As far as internal controls, we did not report anything rising to the level of material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in that yellow book report. We did issue a separate management letter of best practices and opportunities for improving internal controls, particularly segregation of duties. That is very common in small local governments of limited personnel. So pointed out some opportunities there. Moving on, there are always estimates involved in preparing financial statements that we point out, particularly in your financial statements, consistent with many municipalities. You have estimates of your pension liabilities, other post-employment benefits for retiree healthcare, insurance liability accruals, and capital asset depreciation. So those are significant estimates impacting the financial statements, but consistent with normal accounting practices. The one new accounting pronouncement that did hit this year, the Government Accounting Standards Board can't sit still and keep issuing new pronouncements for us. So the new one for this past year related to compensated absences and the recording of that liability for vacation and sick time accruals for employees of the town. This did not significantly impact the town. It was reviewed, and you can see here we had a past adjustment just related to timing of recording in the system, but not material to the town's financial statements, and that will be picked up going forward in future years. As far as how the audit went and difficulties encountered, there's many ways that an audit can go wrong in dealing with management. We did not experience anything like that. Particularly significant, this was our first year as your external auditors, I should say. And with that comes a lot more questions, and it's just more of a robust process, being fresh to the town and working through it. So happy to report that we got everything we needed, and Carrie was a huge help in particular in providing all of the backup for the statements and audit requests. Any questions on that before talking about the numbers a little bit? So financial highlights. I'd like to point out the town's financial statements do include two separate sets of financial statements. The first being the government-wide financial statements, and those are on the full accrual basis and has the complete picture of the town, including all of your capital assets and those long-term liabilities, including those pension and OPEB liabilities, like we mentioned. These tend not to be the most useful in reviewing for the town board and decision makers because of your more focus on the annual budget and more of the fund level financials. That being said, at year end, total net position was about $1.1 million of the town. 720,000 was governmental activities, and just under 400,000 of that was business type activities, that being the LDC financials. Heavily driving that, and why you'll commonly see that net position drop into a net deficit, as last year was a $3.2 million deficit. The biggest impact for all governments in the state is that OPEB liability for retiree healthcare. The current valuation on that was 18 million, and there is no mechanism to fund that. Whereas the pension plan has a big asset balance that is applied against that liability. There is no mechanism for retiree healthcare, so that is on a pay-as-you-go basis. So that will always drive that balance of the statement of net position down. Moving on to the fund results. Again, these are much more relevant as it is on the modified accrual basis of accounting, doesn't pick up those long-term items and reflects more of the ongoing performance year to year of the town. In the general fund, it was budgeted an expected increase in fund balance of about $350,000. Actual results for the 2024 year was a $2.4 million increase in fund balance. Driving that increase in variances to budget, expenditures came in about 1 million under budget for the general fund, and revenues were about 1.1 million over budget. Included in that was a favorable variance and use of money and property. That's your interest income. It was about 400,000 over budget, totaling 550,000. Everyone continues to see that at the moment with really unprecedented high interest rates. So that has been seen all around municipalities. The other significant favorable variance was in the room occupancy tax. 2024 being the first year that it came in at about 1.1 million, which was 350,000 over budget. That being said, the general fund is left with about 6.2 million in fund balance. About 200,000 of that is considered non-spendable, as it's already been applied to prepaid items. And about 270,000 has been assigned for use in the 2025 budget. Where that leaves it is the remaining unassigned fund balance is at about 38% of the 2025 annual budget expenditures. In the other governmental funds, as in total, fund balance increased about 830,000. And the total of those other governmental funds has 6.3 million in fund balance. Point out, the capital projects fund does have a 2.5 million fund balance deficit. That's really driven by the bond anticipation notes. Those short-term liabilities get recorded as a liability in the fund until they're rolled into long-term financing. Lastly, in here is just a 5-year look back of fund balance of the funds. So you can kind of see the trends there. All in all, fairly consistent for the most part, for most of the funds, with the general fund seeing that significant fund balance increase from 23 to 24. Any questions on that or anything else I can help cover? Yeah.
Jacob, the quotation that we got from you said, total town audit $23,000. LBC audit $4,650 and court audit $1,900. Has your billings gone out to us for all of those? I know you sent us a bill for $4,000. So I'd like to know if we got the billing yet for the other.
I will have to double check on that. The partner on it, Keely Hines, is doing the billing. So I'm guessing that through the end of March. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you.
No problem.
Is it related to the Lafayette Skepples?
Yes, yep. If you see the last name, we're the only one around.
I thought so. Your uncle, I think, must look Chris.
Which one?
Chris,
Ah, yeah,
is that your uncle?
yep.
Your dad?
David.
Good family. Good to have
Appreciate
you.
that.
I'm glad to know that you're here doing our audit.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Or you heard him, Kurt, we heard him neighbor.
No, it's not.
For the record, that's not true.
Absolutely not.
He's my neighbor's nephew.
My one question was, and I thought I found it the other night, now I'm looking for it again. Under the assets under non-major governmental funds, was that the infrastructure funding?
In
We
the,
received a couple $1 million that now pushing out into projects. And under the asset line on page 14, there was a 2.859.
yeah, so that is a total of all the non-major governmental funds. So there is a combining schedule of those towards the back of the financial statements.
Yeah, like I say, I think I did find.
So that is a cash balance, so that is the cash balance of all those other funds.
Which would include the Biden money, or as we refer to it, or the infrastructure funds.
So that would depend on which, it's pretty spread evenly across the sewer district, fire protection district, drainage, lighting. So yeah, the cash balance of all those special districts.
Well, again. Yeah. It was just something I should have marked.
And it does look like, at least for the current year, all of those really are just property tax and special assessments.
My
So not.
question as it pertains to fund balances. When those projects are complete and those monies are expended, it will not affect fund balances, right? Or is that money or cash also carried into the fund balance?
Correct. So the ARPA funding that the town still has at this point is recorded as a liability at this point in time. So when expenditures are made, there will be equal revenue and expenditures recognized. So it won't impact the total fund balance.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions from the board? think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, good presentation, good document.
Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Gary, are you looking for the board to accept that tonight?
Yes. And the annual financial report that goes to the state.
Right. Okay, any discussion, comments? This was circulated now for quite a while. Folks all had the opportunity to review it. Any comments from the budget committee or?
Or to lower the taxes this year. Tax rate.
Tax rate, yeah.
Again, I think this is a testimony to the great job our comptroller does in her office. Any,
And we've got our assessor here too. He's kind of helping that.
It's very good.
okay. So no conversation, no questions, and I will entertain a motion to accept this audit from Jack, a second from Carrie. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed, abstained, motion's carried. I will also entertain a motion to accept the financial report from Carrie and a second from Bernard. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion's carried. Okay. With that, let's move right in. Yes,
Could you also please take a motion to accept the
court audit?
or audit or as Mr. Skello put it, the agreed upon procedures?
Okay. I'll entertain a motion from Carrie, a second from Bernard. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. Okay, and I was holding that off. I didn't know if what you had carried into executive session was relevant. Okay. Anybody in the audience here that's waiting for a particular item that otherwise, if they don't get it discussed, would be leaving? Gary, you, Al, you? Are what you're both here for gonna carry into executive session?
I'm executive.
Is there anything else on this agenda that you would like us to attend? Okay, all right, so we'll jump down to item 7 and 8. And we could,
Yeah, answer. They filled completely through the quarter audit. And year to date, 18,750. Do the final bill.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. So the first one is the gas boiler replacement. So a couple of years ago, they got a quote to repair the gas boiler system, and that was just under $6,000. They decided not to do that. Now it's gotten to the point where it really needs to be replaced. So they have a quote for replacing the same system as it is, which is $15,587 for replacing it with a new system, which is cloud-based, much easier to use. And that cost is $18,816.10. We charge 20 cents administrative fee per gallon for all entities that use the gas. So over the last 5 years, we've collected enough to replace this system.
Is that in a separate fund or how's that?
It's in highway.
Just carries over from year to year?
Yeah,
Okay, so what I was proposing was, do we need to raise that to accommodate the purchase of the gas boiler 18,008?
I don't think so. And Rocky had talked about charging each entity for new fobs, because they are about $16 per fob. So that would be the only charge that you could see needing to pass along.
Can you describe, in Rocco's absence, you said that the updated system would be easier than a replacement with the same system? How is
Yeah,
it?
so right now, the system is a software that sits on a really old computer down on highway. We use called AnyDesk, and we have to log in. I no longer have access to that system, just because Dan did some update and just it's old, it won't let me on. So now Linda has to run all the reports and then email them. So with the new system, I'll be able to log into the software from my computer without having to have special access. And it also has a billing system. Right now, we use a spreadsheet. So it'll calculate all the rates and stuff in there for us.
Does this integrate if necessary in with your other financial software?
I wouldn't say integrate, but I will be using our accounts receivable once we generate those reports and creating the invoices. So
Is it something you can import, or is it something that you have to manually enter from one system to the other?
I'll manually enter it. It's not significant work.
It's sounding like the software $18,000 purchase is the preferred way to go.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Did Rocco look at all beyond Gasboy, the other vendors or any other?
I don't believe it. I don't know if it was, complete overhaul if you do that, so you've been sticking with the current vendor that we use.
Yeah, you showed pictures of, what we have and how corroding out.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
it absolutely needs replacement.
For sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
What was he proposing that we buy, what we would charge the other entities for software of some kind, you're saying?
No, so the fobs are $16 per fob. So his proposal would be, once we get a list from every entity, go in and clean up their vehicles and return whatever fobs that they have. We'll deal them out, new list, and then charge them.
So would the old fobs not work with the new?
Yeah, no.
So he's currently getting 20 cents
Yes.
per gallon, right?
Yeah.
And you were recommended 25?
Well, I said, I was just throwing out maybe another dime, but I didn't realize that, what Carrie said about the money part, that it seems like it's been covered.
Yeah, we've only spent about $3,500 over the last 5 years for repairs on it.
So you're gonna.
We've already made enough revenue for it.
Right, so keep the price at 20 cents. The other question is along the line of Max's questioning, and it is, have net management looked at what's coming out of this system yet and an easier transfer into your end code so that there might be a step that another computer / software could handle so that you don't have to hand enter?
I haven't talked to Dan. I know that the vendor was going to reach out to Dan about network and all that.
I feel we have to do this and we'll do this tonight, but please let me
Yeah.
know, follow up if there's a way we can straighten out the connection between this and your accounting system so that you're not hand entering the information that comes out of this.
Yeah, the only thing that I'll be entering is just creating an invoice to Val. I won't be entering.
So you won't have to record
No.
costs, gallons. Yeah,
No.
okay,
Oh, Linda does that.
yeah. Okay, well, hopefully,
Carrie, are there gonna be annual service fees?
Yes, it's the first year right now says about $900.
Do we have any service fees that we're paying currently? And how much revenue are we pulling in that 20% or 20 cents per gallon right
We
now?
make, depending on the usage, we average between 6,000 and 6,700.
a year,
Yeah,
So that's about,
3-year payback on just the 18,000. we don't have to time these two things together, but I would revisit that. And if it has to go to 22 cents or 20.
It might be worth it. I'm thinking about that $900 now.
Right.
That if that needs to come out of that money too, will we have the 25,000 that it's gonna be in 10 years to
Right.
replace this again? So, yeah, I would say that's definitely a conversation to have going forward, but. Let's do that.
Continue it, and that may get implemented on a different cycle than actually implementing this, but it's something to do, especially if there's additional computer costs.
I believe we only raised that once. We put this in
We
about
went from a dime
2012.
to a 20, right?
Pardon?
We went from a dime to 20
Yeah,
cents.
2012 is when we started it, then we did one other time increase.
Those departments, but does it also indicate the individual, or does it just bill to the department?
Per vehicle,
So the vehicle?
yeah. Each vehicle is assigned a fob. In perfect world, everybody is using that vehicle. So it's for that vehicle only.
But it's for other municipalities, the school districts, the fire truck, we'll be able to trace it to that vehicle.
Do we have do we have a camera at the system?
Yeah.
So and it is time coded so that we could match up who actually, or what vehicle was actually filled up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Trying to make sure.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion to authorize the purchase from Sarah and a second from Jack. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. Okay, the John Deere excavator.
Wait a minute. You want me to tell Linda about that tomorrow, so she's proceeding while Rocky's on vacation, or do you want to? Okay, thank you.
And then the next one is the John Deere excavator. He is requesting to purchase the 2025 John Deere 35 compact excavator with flare mower and a felling heavy duty trailer to haul it. The quote total cost is $92,766.96. This will be a purchase that is gonna come out of the drainage district. I'll be using that for the catch basin drainage projects. We budgeted 200,000, so came in much less than what we anticipated.
Any questions? All right, I will entertain a motion from Jack and a second from Joe. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. Okay. L. A Board of Assessment Review, that's Rick Coughlin. Yeah.
Appointed to the Board of Assessment Review for the next 5-year term.
Yep.
He's been a commercial appraiser for over
Make a
10 years.
Rick does a great job.
Yeah.
Tell him we said so. Yeah. Carrie, I have a motion from Carrie, a second from Joe. Any further discussion?
We're fortunate to have.
Yes. All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Just catching up here on my thing. All right, Alana, update the AV equipment in conference room B.
So we use conference room B for all of our board meetings and the system lags. It's really slow, especially during planning board meetings when we have to open a million plans. They're all really big files. Open it and you just wait for it to open and then trying to scroll.
Doing it for zoning board too.
Yeah, it's a mess. And we also are on Zoom, and when you're trying to open different plans and then the Zoom window, down here, so you can open the attachment, the back up here, so, you know, it's just in the way. So we talked to Dan about, he would recommend get better, and he would recommend a second screen in the room. He said that way you could have just open Zoom on one screen, because a lot of times, especially in planning board, our applicants might be on Zoom, so it's a constant juggling game, so we can Zoom on one screen and then the plans on the other screen. And then I believe this would be a new CPU, and then he recommended a high performance video card to drive dual 4K displays.
On the screen.
If you did it like in the corner,
Yeah.
like the, on the other side of the closet. There's windows.
What are those screens, 43? Are they bigger?
You're looking at a total of $2,659.97.
Got a 43 inch, it's not a little small.
If we just have like Zoom up on that, we don't really need to.
Yeah.
See big plans or anything.
Huge. For not a lot of money, you could get a one that's a little bigger.
We're not gonna ask them about it.
It might just be space considerations, or so many windows and doors.
That one behind you, it's gotta be more than 43. Just look into it again, the cost of TVs now and screens are so inexpensive that if you decide on 43, you decide on 43.
Yeah, it's just gonna be up to Dan. That's fast.
How's the sound quality there?
Right now, it's been fine. I don't know how it's gonna be once the air conditioner's on. Now that there's new HVAC, maybe it'll be different than last year. So last year, it would be fine, and then when the air would kick on, then suddenly no one on Zoom could hear anything. It would go off, everything's fine. You can hear people whispering. So it really just depends if the air is on. The microphone is in the ceiling, and talk to Dan. I think he's trying to tweak a few things, and it would need like a new system. But with the new HVAC, I don't know if this will still be an issue.
It seems like that would, and usually how you have to set up for a ZBA or planning board meeting, that would be. They still do them like that owl kind of system.
So I heard the owl wasn't very good. I think they had tried it. Doug, are you the one who told? Yeah.
Yeah, they did, and Dan doesn't recommend it.
Okay.
He actually recommended the ones that he put in now. We had the owl initially for both us and planning board. And it's just doesn't focus, it spins.
I would work with, Brock and Ryan, and Doug's here too, so you could tell him, we could tell him to work with the ability maybe to override the system. You know, to shut off HVAC at certain times or something. I mean, I don't want the room uncomfortable, but you may be able to,
Is it zoned? Do we have multiple zones?
you might be able to shut a zone off,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that all is being worked on right now, though. That's,
Yeah, I know, they had a training session last week for Gasco.
yeah.
I think most of the Gasco system is up and able to be modified at this point. I think it was last Monday, there was a training session down there, right?
When the air comes on, is it gonna be different than how it is right now with the heat? Like, is it gonna be?
Yeah, I don't know, I wasn't in the training, but. Right, I mean, you should be seeing a difference in the building. With where they are right now. You know, how that translates to being able to. Coordinate times when people in the room, I don't know how much you can do that, because you got different times and you're working there.
Right.
We haven't had any issues since last summer, so I
Okay,
don't,
well then,
yeah, I'm not, so I don't know.
that's good. I don't mean, well, let's hope that the new system's quiet and everything's fine going forward, but whatever you need from a technology standpoint, I believe this board would support.
See how it is once the air kicks on and
Yes,
to the-
see how this goes and.
Well, and it might even, with a new system, even if there's some adjustment that a reprogramming that needs to happen to give more control over that specific room, it should be not as difficult with a new system as it would be with the ancient system that we have now, hopefully.
Same with this room. We know Angela's had issues with Zoom and Facebook and everything, we hope that our IT providers will help solve these issues.
No, you've had trouble with speaking for when we had the bigger crowds here for the different meetings.
Yeah.
They had trouble hearing.
Yeah, we've had trouble with microphones and stuff, and so this is a work in progress, but we're open to correcting these problems.
But is that on the docket for net management to work on it?
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, any of these issues that are ongoing are stuff that I've communicated to Dan that he has license to work on. I mean, if you think about it, as Carrie joked earlier, the financial status of the town is in great shape, right? I mean, but the clerk's department is generating revenue that is really put the town in a good spot. Your department is bringing in fine monies and permits on projects. We just redid the permits. There's no reason for $5,000-$10,000 here or there that this town would hold back on those improvements when these departments need those improvements.
Particularly the planning board.
Well,
The planning board and zoning.
And this board
It makes
too.
us
this
look
road.
really good too when it works. And it makes us the opposite when it doesn't work, so.
well, and
Here it doesn't work
I've
out.
sat through a few of the planning board meetings where it can get slow and
Here it doesn't work a lot.
like pitch clock in baseball, if you guys didn't have to wait, just 5-10 seconds. It might make your meeting 20-30 minutes shorter over the end of the whole
And then
thing.
people are like scroll down.
Yeah.
You move off for one and you go back to it, and you gotta wait again for.
So the way I've communicated it, and hopefully this board doesn't feel offended, is that department heads have the ability to work with net management on all these improvements, and then when the time comes to purchase, come back to us, but we don't need to get engaged on the day-to-days, but if you have, you all have license as department heads to work with our resources, folks like Doug and Dan Bender to resolve these issues. Okay, so with that, we have a cost here of $2,659.97.
Cheap.
We just approved a $97,000 purchase on an excavator in 0 seconds.
I'll make,
I have a motion for from Carrie and a second from Max. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried.
Does think a bigger screen would work better? Does this, should I come back or?
send us an email.
Okay.
What the difference is, but.
Yeah.
This seems, might as well do it. I mean, if you're gonna make that room, and it's just gonna get busier over the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But if there's not room for it, then stick with what you got.
There was a TV lying around. Did they get put in the break room? The TV that was,
One on the
There's one in A and there's one hanging up here
okay,
out in the hallway.
still, but, yeah, and they're probably not compatible with where you're going, but I would hope that the TVs here,
Everything, every year, these things get better and better.
oh yeah, but again, stuff like the break room, right? We have a break room for employees. If there's no TV in there, it shouldn't have to come to this board to decide where that TV ends up. Take the TV off the wall here and put it in the break room so that employees can watch the news or whatever when they're eating lunch or on their break time. I think these are all things that we've gone over, but you're here and you're asking.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay. Town board minutes of April 14th. Have a motion from Carrie and a second from Sarah. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. The Calmer Road zone change.
Yes, this is a follow-up from the board's approval of a zone change for 6475 Collimer Road. March 24th, the board approved that, and the board approved it exactly as recommended by the planning board. This ordinance that's attached states the board has approved the zone change and approves amendment of the zoning map, and it identifies the portion to be changed in a legal description in Exhibit A. It's also contingent on the planning board completing a subdivision process to finalize these parcels, at which time we'll have appropriate tax map parcel numbers assigned to these areas, so we won't have to use this legal description, but this allows us to approve the area that the board wants to move from industrial to business transitional. This will get it done.
So we didn't need to do this for the other two zone changes that we did because we had specific parcel numbers that we included for that?
We did this same thing, but I didn't have a legal description. I had parcel numbers. I just said, these are the parcel numbers. For this, because they're changing, I didn't have it yet. And then for them to do the subdivision, they need the board to act here first. So it's a little confusing. It's kind of a catch-22, but it should, in the end, work out where we have a map that has the parcels correct and it has tax map parcels assigned correctly from the county.
Okay, I have a motion from Max and a second from Sarah. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion's
And
carried.
thanks to Tim Coyer, surveyor, did a really responsive and did a good job. So public thanks to Tim Coyer.
Okay, so that's good.
Yep.
There were a couple items that it was my fault. I wanted to add to the agenda. One, I sent a couple of emails. I sent one out a while ago, but the Fiddler's Green Park Association came back with a quote for the survey and the placement of the stakes.
Can you just review, I know we talked about this
Yeah.
at some point, but just what the purpose of this is?
So that we have the exact boundaries marked of the park and the land we've owned. These parcels were surveyed according to land transfers, but never marked. And so for
2007.
trail development purposes and things of that nature, Fiddler's Green just wants to know exactly where the boundaries are.
So does this include only the Fiddler's Green property or any of the other areas that we own along the brook there?
We own Fiddler's Green Park is a combination of several lots. So we have the original 11 acres that the quarry Hanson donated to the town. Then we have what I refer to as a Clemmer property. Then we had Quaglia's property. Then there was a subdivision and there was a donation of an opposite piece north of the creek from the Glenlock property. And so between all of those, there's a need, which I agree with, to outline the actual boundaries of the park.
But we also did close on another property upstream recently.
Yeah.
Alex House himself.
Yeah, Linda Krolik's, that's,
Gotta include that.
well, that's adjacent. It's in between the corner piece, which we already have, and a parcel that we have a pump station in for the sewer. So that closes off, and we know where the edge of the pump station boundary is. So we have from the corner to the pump station.
So we wouldn't need to come back in a few years and reassess that.
Well, we could do that, but that's not anything the Fiddler's Green Park Association, the quote that I sent you was up to $2,800, and the Fiddler's Green Park Association will split that with us. So we're talking, what I've asked for today is a cost not to exceed $2,800 for the Fiddler's Green Park Association at a cost not to exceed $2,800, which we'll pay and probably get reimbursed $1,400 from Fiddler's Green Park Association.
My only thought was if we're having a surveyor basically in that valley already, if there was, even not splitting that part with Fiddler's
Right.
Green, but if it was going to cost us just a little bit, couple $100 more and stake out some new properties that we already own, if it was worth it to do while they're there.
There is something I want to say.
Later.
Yes.
You want to move this one to that one to executive?
Yeah, let's move this one and we'll talk about that offline, and Doug will reinforce what I would, he probably knows what I'm gonna say. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to authorize the survey at the cost of not to exceed $2,800 from Jack, and a second from Bernard. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed, abstained, motion's carried. And then the second thing, and there does not need to be any action. I just bringing it up early, maybe I'm anxious, but our summer schedule. Historically, we used to only meet once in July and once in August, and typically we have to have special meetings. Last couple of years, we moved July and August to mornings so that the summer evenings are available to us. And we've kept and preserved the bi-monthly meeting schedule. So whatever your preference is, sometime in May, we'll probably do that so that public notice and everything can be sent out. And if you wanted to, I think one of those years, not every year, we have extended it into, let's say, the second meeting in June or whatever. So when the questions are, when do you want to start the summer schedule? And do you prefer to cancel an evening meeting and take your chances on special board meetings? Or do you prefer to have a set bi-monthly second and fourth Mondays, but conduct those meetings in the morning? So that's, and if so, at what time? Do you have other obligations?
You want to discuss that now, because in May you have May 26th. In May right now, we would be meeting on the 12th at 6 p.m. But then in 2 weeks after that, the 26th, and that is Memorial Day. So what do we want to do about that now?
That's.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it. Take that.
I thought about that. Yeah, I was gonna play golf, so you said so.
I will say that just from skipping ahead to June, the 23rd of June is still school's still in session for that one. So evening would still be easier for me for the June.
Yeah,
Okay, so we won't start until July, but the first meeting in July is the 14th. Be the 14th and the 28th.
I've been happy with the mornings in the summer. It's fine.
I like the mornings too in the summer, and I'm willing to roll the dice. We consolidate them for July and August and just see what we get for a special.
Oh, you're proposing we do both?
What, can we not?
We can, but we've invariably found the need to have special board meetings in those months when we've.
Want me to go back and see how many meetings we've actually had during the summers?
Well, last
That
summer
would be
doesn't
actually
count.
quite easy.
We had a lot going on last summer that hopefully doesn't happen again.
I'll go back the last couple of years and just see the history.
Yeah.
Sure. Have a proposal for next meeting.
All right, so at a minimum, Jack's got a good point. It's only a month away. What are we gonna do for Labor Day or Memorial Day? Excuse me.
So officially cancel it, and if we need to have a special board meeting.
There you go with Sarah.
We need to get together for the second meeting in May, then
The Tuesday.
we have Angela do her magic.
Thanks.
You're really good at it. We can set up a meeting faster than you.
I'm bossy.
All right, I'll entertain a motion from Jack to cancel the Memorial Day meeting. A
Yep.
second from Bernard. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, Motion's carried. All right, Carrie, I gave you every opportunity to go home early, but the check registers are still here with us.
And also I thought I'd say, just in case.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the,
I got a question.
oh,
Check register, McGinnis Nelson, we paid them $98,000. Broke down into two segments, 29,616 for the boardwalk and 68,518 for security town hall. First question is, what phase are we at the boardwalk if we paid 29,000? Do anybody know? Doug, maybe you could tell us.
Yeah, the boardwalk's complete. We're holding the 5% retainage for them to come back and do the cleanup over there. But it's all done to the scope of work that we looked at.
actually, it looks great.
And upstairs, we're still shooting for an end of May completion date. And we are working on glass and microphone cutouts in the glass. So once we get the microphones all secured and everybody all set, which I think we're just about there, then we can release the glass. And then there's a lead time of a few weeks for the glass. The glass will come in, the storefronts will come in. And we should be pretty well set. We've also authorized them to move forward with the carpeting.
And he's given us a concession on that, so.
Yeah, he did, yep.
And likewise, you reached out last week and I did forward the request to Carrier to try to expedite the HVAC, the heat
Oh,
pump.
good.
Heat pumps, right? So, for this information, I don't know if I'll in the loop, but the heat pumps are on order from Carrier and our contractor informed us last week that Carrier was saying there was going to be a delay in delivery on those heat pumps.
That 98,000, for the first payment, that was the first payment for all of that work up there, so.
Oh, 98,000 was for 29,000 for the boardwalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying like the portion for security, like that's the first payment we paid them, so.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the check register from Jack and a second from Joe. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Motion's carried. We can accept them in mass, right? That was for
Yes.
the 8th and the 14th. All right, is there any board updates? Okay, I do know that the rec department's working closely with Salt City Sports and with the National Junior College Athletic Association representatives out of Utica we have an upcoming tournament at Carrier Park in May. If you're not aware of those dates, it's always a fun event. And I have asked, they requested back out of Utica that we would limit construction when the games are going. And so that tournament starts on a Wednesday evening. The construction should be done for the day. But then Thursday and Friday, games start at 1 p.m. So I think, Doug, you were copied on that, but we have a request in for those 2 days. And I don't believe, is there construction going on the weekends? I didn't think so. So it would just be Thursday, Friday of the tournament that we'd asked contractor to
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
step down. Yeah, Saturday is the last day of the tournament, championship on Thursday. And everybody goes home on Sunday. But anyways, that will be hosting for the next couple of years, which is always a good event. With that, I don't believe any other announcements I should be communicating. So entertain a motion to enter executive session. from Jack and a second from Joe. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion's carried. We'll give it a couple minutes for Angela to shut down.